Sermon of the Week, Collector. Did you all have a good weekend? Yes, they all said in unison. Are we all ready to learn? Yes, they all said in unison again. Well, let's begin. The 24th graders, who all liked this teacher, stared intently at her this Monday, somewhere in Middle America. Okay, the students said in unison. First, we'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance. All stand. The students all did so. I pledge allegiance to the flag. Once complete, they all sat back down. Now I'll offer a prayer. For those that don't believe in God, you may pray to your God silently or just remain silent. This was the teacher's routine, but some of the children didn't like it. Yet out of respect for her, a vast improvement over their third grade teacher, they maintained decorum. Now, children, for today's assignment, I'm going to try something a little different. There was a bit of mumbling, but it soon quieted. Teacher, you said we were going to do some reading from our history book today. We will, but later on after the recess. Today I'm going to ask some of you a question which I want you to answer. What's a question? The student asked. It's a question in two parts. I'd rather read about history, the Civil War. We'll get to that later. Her own face began to turn a reddish hue, and she hoped the students wouldn't notice, but a few did. You okay, teacher? One student asked. I'm fine. Okay, part one. What do you collect? The students didn't really grasp the question and turned to look at one another. I want you to tell me one thing that you collect. What's part two? Another student asked. We'll do part one first, then I will ask you part two. April, what do you collect? April was a short blonde girl in the front row. What do you mean? I don't know. I don't know. At home, what do you collect? Do you have a collection of books or games, puzzles, sweaters? What do you have in your room more than one of? April struggled to understand, but the teacher let her think through it for a bit. The question seemed simple enough, but what it was accomplishing was the fact that all 20 of her students were now thinking about how to answer this question. The classroom had never been more silent. What seemed like an hour into them 60 seconds. Candy, April blurted out. The classroom began laughing in chorus. I got a lot of candy at Halloween, and I still have some hidden in my closet. The laughing continued for a bit, but soon quieted as the students realized they might have to answer next and didn't want to be laughed at. That was a very good answer, April, the teacher said. We all need food to survive in this world. April's near tears face lit up with a smile, and she stared back at the other students who were now feverishly concocting their own answers. Brady, what do you collect? The teacher asked. Brady had thought it through and was ready. Baseball cards, he said confidently. How many do you have? Oh, I don't know, about 1,000. What will you do with them? Just save them. You can't eat them, why do you collect them? Some have bubble gum in them. Are some worth a lot? Yeah, I have a Mickey Mantle card. It's worth a lot. So Brady collects baseball cards as an investment. We all need money to survive in this world. Cosette, how about you? What do you collect? Cosette thought a bit and then said, Dolls. How many dolls do you have? A lot. Maybe 30. Why do you collect dolls? Mom buys them. She knows I like them. What do you do with all your dolls? Oh, I play with them. They're all my friends. So Cosette collects friends. She learns to communicate with others, something we all need to do in this world. DeWitt, how about you? What do you collect? Strikeouts. What do you mean? Well, in the Little League, I'm the best pitcher. I strike out the most batters. How many did you strike out in your best game? All of them, DeWitt said, standing. The boys all began clapping. Once the applause died down, DeWitt sat, a huge grin on his face. DeWitt is collecting ability, the ability to excel in the world. We all need to excel to be successful. Elizabeth, what do you collect? Books. How many books do you have? Maybe 50. You read them all? Every one. Elizabeth collects information. We all need a lot of information to live in this world. Time for one more. Felicity? Money, she said immediately. I have 3 piggy banks. No, 4 piggy banks filled with money. How much have you collected? $1,000. The skeptics in the room jeered a bit, but soon quieted, worried what might be said about their answers. We all need wealth to survive in this world. Those were all good answers. Now, for part 2, what does one of your parents collect? Girls answer for their mother, boys answer for their father. The students began to ooh and ah a bit. This was not what they were expecting. April, what does your mother collect? Jewelry. Brady? Cars. Cosette? I don't know, maybe clothes? DeWitt? Girls. Elizabeth? Songs and flowers. I need one. Which does she collect more of? Flowers. Felicity? Money. Definitely money. Okay, thank you, children. I want the rest of you to write down your answers on a sheet of paper. Don't forget to put your name on it. Then, I want you to ask your parents the same question when you get home. Write down their answer on your sheet and bring it to class. On Wednesday. We'll have time then. Thank you. Recess. Class dismissed. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. 1 Timothy 6:7. The Apostle Paul is here stating the obvious, or is he? Did we actually bring anything into this world when we were born? Well, no, we are naked and slippery after laying for 9 months in what is called amniotic fluid. We are holding nothing in our hands, and we have no pouches like kangaroos to put things in. The witnesses to our birth can certainly attest to this. Often there is only one witness, the mother. Sometimes there is just a passerby who assists the mother, say in a car or in an elevator. But more often than not, there is a doctor and some nurses. It has not been until the last century that it has become the standard to have the father and at times the family attend the birth. Contamination causing infection was the reason given in the past, but today the family is placed in gowns and masks the majority of the time, and the infection rate has not increased. This is done even during cesarean sections. Rarely the birth outcome is tragically not successful, which causes problems for the medical team and the family. But as stated, this is very rare in the modern age. The question also arises as to where we came from. Science has spent billions attempting to answer this question, and though the point is argued, most are satisfied with the sperm and egg theory, combining the DNAs of the two parents. However, the second part of Paul's statement is far more argued and far less understood. What happens when we die and where we go, if anywhere, has been hotly contested for 6,000 years or more. What is fascinating is the conversation between Lucifer and Eve, found in Genesis 3. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. Genesis 3:1. Satan talks to this woman, but Eve does not seem surprised at this fact. In fact, she rather nonchalantly answers Satan in serpent form. Among other things, this verse implies other animal forms also talk to Adam and Eve, and that Satan, in whatever form he chose, communicated with the happy couple. It implies they knew him. In fact, the prophet Ezekiel says Satan was in Eden in full glory. Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was thy covering. Ezekiel 28:3. Satan was known to Adam and Eve and probably a friend. He chose the serpent form so they would not know him and he could seduce them into evil. And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. Genesis 2:3. Eve knew she was not to eat of the fruit of that tree, but she also knew what death meant. I'm not sure how she knew this, and will want to ask God this question if I am fortunate enough to have that opportunity. Though she knew what death meant, I'm not sure she knew its permanency. At this time in universal history, though there had been massive rebellion, there apparently had not been any death, certainly none on planet Earth. God had ensconced all the rebellious angels to planet Earth and maybe its environs, the Milky Way galaxy. 1/3 of all God's angels is a huge number. Billions or maybe trillions of angels. Adam and Eve had not seen any human form die on Earth. They may have already had children before the encounter with the serpent. Cain and Abel were born after they left Eden. Irregardless, they had some concept of what death was. Every eye in the universe was likely on this conversation. In modern parlance, imagine it as God's version of the Truman Show, a movie all should see. Literally everything in the universe was hanging in the balance. Eve used God's own words to counter the serpent's, that is, Satan's temptation, just like Christ did 4,000 years down the road of history. Yet there must have been doubt somewhere in the corner of Eve's mind, and the serpent's next question exposed that doubt for all the universe to see. We are not told what caused that doubt, but clearly it was there. Maybe Lucifer and his angelic friends had conversations with both Adam and Eve. We know Lucifer and his angelic friends have far superior knowledge and power when compared to humans. In any event, Eve's tiny bit of doubt would not let her walk away from the serpent. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die. Genesis 3:4. This serpent, like a closer in baseball, slammed the door on the opposition. He knew about her doubt. He knew when she did not walk away or call for help from Adam or Christ or God himself, he had her. And as is his wont, he slammed the door down hard, harder than Eve or Adam or all the unfallen beings or the angels or Christ himself could imagine. Only the God of the universe knew the infinite tragedy that had just played out in his favorite place in all the universe. God, the umpire of the universe, threw his right fist in the air. Strike three, you're out. In essence, you're out of here. The serpent, that is Lucifer, that is the devil, told Eve, Ye shall not surely die. Those 5 words rang through the universe like a gong, like a death knell. I am sure all those that heard them wondered exactly the same thing. Was their home, their universe, going to be destroyed? Was Lucifer now going to take over? He convinced trillions of highly intelligent angels that he was, and these 2 weak-minded humans were certainly not going to stand in his way. The only one left to stand in his way was the umpire of the universe, the creator of the universe, and everything in it. Lucifer's 5 last words may have sealed his fate and the fate of all that followed his lead. They would be the 5 last words he would say directly to a human for 4,000 years. Ye shall not surely die ends with a colon in your Bible, but it is actually a question and a statement. Lucifer's intelligence demonstrates that this was not a fair fight. Eve could perceive those 5 words as a question and a statement. These 5 words forever exposed her seed of doubt. When she heard them, what took over? The same thing that took over Lucifer's brain some 20,000 or more Earth years earlier. Pride. Eve thought, if this serpent is right, then God must be wrong. There was never anyone so wrong in all the universe. She made herself a god. This serpent, and now she, was smarter than God, the one who created her and her beautiful life, the only one who could have created her. She knew all of this, yet she proceeded to take the bite that will forever scar that apple and the entire universe. What is it that gets into the human mind, whereby the human will do something stupid? something completely out of character, something completely self-destructive. Paul, probably more than any other human, knew what that something was, and his 14 books of your Bible explain this over and over and over again. Read his 16-word dissertation again. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. He is saying two things. First, God created us in our world. We had no choice in the matter. Our two parents got together and created us. We had no choice, no control. One day in time we began to grow, and soon we stepped out onto planet Earth. We had absolutely no say in the matter, and of course we landed on the worst possible planet in all the universe, with absolutely nothing but our slippery body. We are fully dependent on other humans to even survive. Secondly, Paul says we will eventually leave this planet Earth. He doesn't say how or where we will go or if we will return to dust, but he does say we will leave this planet. This implies two more things. One, we will leave this planet as we came to it with nothing. But secondly, it implies we will not be forgotten, dependent just as we entered Earth, but not forgotten. We may be taken to some heaven or hell, or just lay as dust or ash in the ground, but some part of us will still exist. In most cases, it likely is our soul, our DNA, our identity, our unique self. Each human, each life form in all the universe is different, just like every snowflake. That unique entity will be preserved by God no matter what happens to us on this earth. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, Revelation 20:12. And they were judged, every man according to their works, Revelation 20:13. The plan of salvation was no secret. Lucifer knew this. Christ knew this. The angels all knew this. Unfallen worlds all knew this. If Eve had not sinned, someone would still have had to die, giving all the rebellious angels a chance for redemption. After Satan utters his 5 words, "Ye shall not surely die," Eve now knows this, and soon Adam will. 4,000 earth years will pass before the plan of salvation is completed, but the world motors along the road of evil as if there was no plan. Paul uses every last ounce of his energy to tell the world the plan of salvation exists, and all need to sign up. Alas, half of that world chooses not to. A collector, by definition, is one who collects or accumulates things of a specified type. Our world is filled with collectors. People collect all types of things, from dolls to cars to money, stamps, cards, art, fossils to who knows what. The list of things collected is as long as there are people in this world. Some collect more than one thing, and some collect everything. The latter are called hoarders. The larger question is, why do people bother to collect things they really don't need to survive? One doesn't need 20 paintings to live. You can only look at one at a time. In fact, the most valuable paintings are usually secured in some vault to protect them from theft. No eyes see such artworks for years and years. A man who collects 50 cars can only drive one at a time, and he has to build a big, dreary garage to keep all these cars in good condition. A little girl who collects dolls will actually play with several at a time, but soon tires of certain ones and is overjoyed when her mother brings home the next version of Barbie. Of course, when she hits the teen years, she moves on to boys. Hopefully her mother saves her dolls as an investment, as 30 years down the line some may become very valuable. A more plausible reason to collect is to place your collection in a museum so all that have interest in your specific collection can view them. The reasons given are various. The museum is preserving history. All can enjoy the collection. The museum will make the owners money. And of course the main reason to collect is money. Rather, one should say accumulating wealth. Money is the most collected thing in our world. Wealth is what all seem to strive for. The underlying cause is that we wish to preserve our security, our lifestyle, our future, our children's future, and our country's future. In this world, one does need a certain amount of money to survive. However, in Eve's world, money was no object. In her world, the perfect world, everything was free. It was a cashless society. She would go to the store run by some angel, pick out some food or trinkets, and the store owner would bag them up, and she would return to her mansion made of living trees, vines, flowers, and precious stones. Hers was a cashless society. She had no need of collecting. No one was going to steal anything. It was also a safe society. No one was going to hurt her. No lion was going to bite her. No tornado was going to flatten her home. But, and this is a big but, somewhere along the line, she thought or was told there was something better. There was something even better. Shangri-La. Why is it when you have everything, you always want something more? Why do we think grass is greener on the other side of that fence? Adam and Eve found out it was definitely not greener on the other side of the fence. Only God knows the answer to this question. But this process of wanting more when we have everything, of never being satisfied, of having 39 works of art and needing one more, of looking for greener grass, this process is currently being answered by the God of the universe. The Lucifer experience, the Eden experience, the flood experience, the crucifixion experience, the time of the end increase in knowledge experience is God's answer to the collector. Every collector that ever took a breath. Speaking of experiences, the collecting of experiences is also rampant. Traveling to every state of the United States, climbing all the tallest mountains in the world, seeing all the great world museums, eating at all the top 10 restaurants in the world, dating many different women, dancing at all the great clubs in the world, trying all the latest drugs available, taking cruises to many different ports of call, or all types of collecting. Of course, these also can provide us with great joy and are welcome, but these too we cannot take with us. Collecting can be a great thing, providing joy, increasing our knowledge, increasing our wealth, and increasing our self-satisfaction. But of course, it can and often gets out of hand. It can consume all our time and energy, taking away from the things we should be doing. The treatment for this has been developed by a man himself. It's called Collectors Anonymous. When our habits, our collections, our activities get out of control, we can seek assistance to get back on track by consulting entities called Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous and Gamblers Anonymous are the most famous, but there are many other such organizations which can and do help millions of collectors to stay on track. They are aimed at the addictive, compulsive, and behavioral nature of humanity and are very successful. Paul, likely the most evil man of his day, his job was collecting Christ's followers. That is, intimidating them to abandon their beliefs, and if they didn't, he and his henchmen would just kill them. This method of maintaining control had existed since Cain and continues on into the 21st century. In 34 AD, Paul was confronted by God himself on a Damascus road. Paul was blinded for 3 days and spent the next 3 years in Damascus, reviewing his evil life with his family. Eventually, he would pull out the scrolls available at the time and realize how evil his path had been. He then, with God's help, devised a plan to join the other side, God's side. He would not only join the other side, but would develop and implement a plan to promote the other side, the other party, if you will. That party was the party Christ himself formed in 31 AD at Calvary. All no doubt heard much about what Christ had said during Christ's short time on earth. I expect he heard these words that Christ spoke. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon the earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourself treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through and steal. Matthew 6:19 and 20. Once Paul heard these words, I'm sure he knew exactly what his path should be, and he worked feverishly to prepare himself for what was to become his monumental task of building up God's church into a beacon that it has become. It is a point of focus for all. It is where one can go to get back on the right track. When one over-collecting, when one is in doubt, when abusing time, when one is off the deep end, it is a place to begin to climb back onto the track, not toward riches and acclaim by others, but toward heaven and life eternal. Malachi, the last prophet in the Old Testament, prophesied about 400 BC. After him there was a dark age of 400 years until Christ brought light back into a hopelessly evil world. Malachi knew humanity had completely rejected God. If you will not hear, and if you will not lay it to heart to give glory unto my name, saith the Lord of hosts, I will even send a curse upon you, and I will curse your blessings. Malachi 2:2. When Christ landed in Bethlehem 400 years later, he knew this. Even the priests of God were at fault. They were not collecting souls as God had ordered and designed them to do. They were collecting wealth, just as Malachi and countless prophets before him had said. Christ turned things around by simply stopping breathing for 3 days and then resuming breathing again. And when he had to leave this planet and resume his heavenly duties, he hunted down the most evil man on the planet to take over, knowing Paul had the right stuff deep inside. He knew he could trust only one man, Paul of Tarsus, to lead his church out of the one dark age, through another dark age, and on into the light ages to come. Collecting is and can be a wonderful thing. It provides joy, happiness, prosperity, and knowledge, but one must keep it under control. God himself is a collector. We know he collects at least 2 things. Number 1, he collects galaxies. Number 2, he collects souls. To date, his biggest collector of souls has been Paul of Tarsus. Enjoy your collecting and your collections. Build them, study them, show them off, preserve them, but do not let them interfere with your main task on this planet, for time is increasingly short. God hasn't let his collecting interfere with that task. That task is the collecting of souls. And Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these 2 commandments hang all the law and the prophets. Matthew 22:37 through 40. Eve collected apples, but one day her collecting got out of control and she collected one too many apples. I'm sure she never took a bite out of another apple ever again, and she lived 900 plus years. Paul was a tent maker by trade and reasonably well off. I'm sure he had some collections, maybe even statues of false gods. But God hunted him down, met him on a dusty road, showed him his errors, and set him on the correct path. Paul was a slow learner. It took him 3 years in Damascus before he embarked on 4 stupendous missionary journeys. But once he began collecting the right things, that is, the souls of humanity, his collection snowballed beyond anyone's wildest predictions. The odds against his succeeding were infinite, yet this one man steered all humanity and even the ruling government, the Roman Empire, back on course. In 313 AD, some 250 years after Paul's death, the Roman Empire became Christian. As any observer of history will tell you, you can't make this stuff up. Collect away, but at least once a day read Paul's words. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. 1 Timothy 6:7. The rest of Monday rolled by rather quickly for the fourth grade class in Middle America, but the conversations between the 24th graders was vastly different than the usual ones. They all centered around collecting. Many were nervous about asking their parents what they collected, but eventually they all did ask. At first the answers their parents gave them were quick, but after thinking about it, most of the parents changed them to something different, something more acceptable to society. All right, children, you may be seated, the fourth grade teacher said to the class this Wednesday in Middle America. 2 days had passed since she had posed the question of what they and their parents collected. Does everyone have the answer for the question I asked on Monday? To her surprise, every one of her 20 students raised their hand immediately. Well, wonderful. You all get an A for today. Yippee! All the students said in unison, or at least something to that effect. Okay, let's find out what your parents said. We'll start again with April. Tell us what your mother told you. I believe you collected candy, and you said she collected jewelry. Teacher, I have a confession to make, and that is, well, when I told Mom I collected candy, she found it in my closet and threw it away. I do have 3 video games, so now I collect them. The class began to laugh at her as it had 2 days ago, and she again came near to tears. I'm proud of you for telling us. And what did your mother say she collected? No, I was wrong about that too. She doesn't collect jewelry. She collects recipes. Interesting, the teacher said. Brady, what about you? I believe Monday you answered baseball cards and cars. Yeah, but my dad said he doesn't collect them. But they are valuable classic cars, and he's going to sell them to museums to help pay for my college. Very good. What are you going to do after you go to college? I'm going to be a baseball player. The teacher smiled, expecting such an answer. Cosette, you collect dolls and your mother clothes. Yes, but she says she doesn't collect them. Clothes, I mean. What does she collect? Friends. She says she has lots and lots of friends. She says she gives clothes away to charities. Well, that's wonderful. We all need to collect a lot of friends. DeWitt, how about you? Yeah, I was wrong. I do collect strikeouts, but Dad wasn't too happy. He says he doesn't collect girls. You see, Mom passed away and he just dates occasionally. So what does he collect? Coins. He has a lot of coins, some even gold. He says there is no better investment. He says just a few of his coins will pay for my schooling. What will you do in life? Oh, I'll be a baseball player. Well, we have 2 future baseball players. 3, another student said, raising his hand. Good. How about you, Elizabeth? I was right. My mom does collect flowers. She has a big greenhouse and beautiful flowers. We take some to the state fair. She has even won ribbons. Good, good. I'd like to see them sometime. Okay, I'll tell her. Maybe tomorrow. Well, we have school tomorrow, but someday soon I'd like to come by. Great. Felicity, what about you? I think it was money for both you and your mother. Yes, mine is still money, but Mom said I don't collect money. She doesn't either. We just save it for rainy days. Excellent. Mom says I collect stuffed animals. I bet I have 100. She collects books. We have a big library at home. I bet we have 100 books. I bet even more than 100. No, I think about 100. Well, that's wonderful. Books provide you all with knowledge you all will need as you grow up into fine men and women just as your parents have. Can you read the Civil War to us now? Felicity asked. In a minute. What did you all learn from this little question and answer session? We'll all be rich baseball players, DeWitt said, raising his hand. We'll all be rich moms and dads, Cosette said, raising her hand. Maybe, but like your parents, what will you will also be as fine and upstanding people who will always be ready to help the people around them. Some curious looks came from around the room, but there were also a few yes teachers heard. I want you to think about the question and all the answers in the days ahead. I believe it is very important for all of you to grow up to be successful and helpful to others. She hoped and prayed at least a few, or maybe even one of her students grasped what she had said, but deep down she doubted it. She now pulled out the history textbook, turned to the American Civil War chapter, and began to read. 'Fourscore and 7 years ago,